Hello, everybody. I just got a warning that the recording stopped working. So hang on, I've just got to make sure that I am recording this. Choose folder, perfect. Okay, so today on WOOculture Live, we have Vix Maxwell, one of my favorite people in the woo world. She has been somebody that I have followed for years before I started my growth in the spiritual world. She was a teacher and is still a spiritual teacher, a mentor, a tarot card reader, a soul reader, a fairyologist. She's got so many things behind her. I love how she's giggling at the fairyology piece. All of these things behind her. And now, this Friday, she is launching her first novel. So I'm really excited to have her on here. So give me 1 second while we do this. There we go. Hello, Vix.
Hi.
Welcome to WOOculture Live. I am just so excited to have you on here because, like I said, I was following you when I first started kind of looking into all of this stuff. I know, right? And that was
so weird.
Probably. Oh, I don't even remember. Like, when did you start? I just remember your smiley little face on YouTube.
I think I made my first video in like 2013.
Yep, probably.
Maybe 2014.
Yeah, because
but it was around then.
2012 was the big where everybody went, I'm awake.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yep.
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 Yeah,
the Mayans knew it was happening.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Yeah, what is this shit? Like, what is going on? So tell us about what you've been up to lately, what you've been creating, and then we're going to talk a little bit about, the ins and outs of spirituality and how it's not as easy as some people make it, and that it's a continual journey. So tell us a little bit about what you're up to lately.
What am I up to lately? Well, I have recently been going through some big transitions with my business and the way that I work. I kind of just came out probably like a month ago, and I stopped calling myself a tarot reader and started calling myself a soul reader, which felt really exciting. And yeah, like what have I been doing? I've been running my membership, The Circle. We've been working through the elements for the last few months, and this month is water magic. So we've been working through the elements, but you know how like everyone works through the elements and you're like, okay, I've got a candle on my altar and I've got a dish of water, a shell, or we kind of know all of that stuff. I've kind of been doing it a little bit differently, and we've been looking at like what's going on with the elements within us.
Ooh.
And like how, like what's going on when you've got too much water, what's going on when you need to ground and you need some more air. So we're kind of like bringing it back into ourselves and kind of like working through it in that way, and how to get yourself into this place where you're like elementally aligned so that you can like manifest and move forward on your best and highest path and all that stuff. And I've been writing a novel just to like give myself a bit more work.
Yeah, tell us about the novel, because I'm really excited. I'm ready to like my finger to hit buy because I can't wait. Oh.
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting. That's been like a 10-year process to write that book, and it's finally coming out. It's finally going to be out in the world. I have no idea like if people are going to read it or like it, but I just feel called to do it, so I'm doing it.
That's why you should, right?
Yeah, the story of my life. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. That's cool. It always guides me. It always takes me to the next thing. So yeah, like that's kind of what I've been doing.
What you've been up to. So, everybody's spiritual path is going to be different. Everybody's journey is different. And we come into each of these pieces. I think people in the beginning love tarot cards because I always say like they're the gateway drug to spirituality. They're easy, and I mean, they can be so cute, right? Like, I love the Crystal Unicorn Tarot. There's so many great oracle decks that are easy to get into for you, what was your first thing that kind of drew you in to the spirituality path?
My first thing was ghost stories.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My granddad, when I was really little, I was probably like, maybe like 4 or 5. Like I was properly like little. My granddad told me a ghost story, and it was like something just happened. I was like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah. There's something bigger here.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of like my little light bulb moment of like, wow, okay. Yeah, so it was ghost stories for me, which is interesting because I used to read when I was in like primary school. I used to read loads of like horror and ghost stories, and like now I can't. Like, like please stay away from me with the ghost stories. Like,
really?
That stuff just freaks me out now. Yeah, but I used to be like so into it. It's interesting how you go through those phases where it's like, yeah, I'm just really into that, and now I'm like, no, I'm finished with that.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because last night, and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to post about this because it'll totally like fit into our conversation tomorrow. What started mine was I started seeing things in my bedroom at night. There were people standing in the corners, you know, they would stand at the bottom of my bed, and I would just feel a presence. And it's funny because as we're on this spiritual journey and we're growing and everything's shifting and changing, those things that started us in it tend to show up when we're just about to up level again, or that's been my experience, like when you're about to ascend to that next level, or, you know, it's a reminder, like, remember where you started. And last night at 4 o'clock in the morning, because I'm like, God damn it. I look at my phone and I'm like, oh, it's 4 o'clock, you jerks. Like, I don't even know. So what I heard was this knocking. And for me, that's like spirit saying like, hey, let us in. And it was funny because I was like laying in bed and I'm like, I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to see who it is. And I was like trying to not like engage because I make rules that they're not allowed in my bedroom because I need to sleep. But it was funny because I finally got up and I went into the bathroom. And when I came back, I walked through somebody's energy and I literally jumped out of my skin because that doesn't happen often for me in my home. And I was like, oh, God damn it. And I started like, you know, yelling at them saying like, get out of my bedroom. Like, you're not allowed to be here. But I know who it was, and it's actually somebody very close to me wanting to connect with me. But when I laid back down again, they did the knocking on the door again, and it kept waking me up. So, you know, it amazes me that those things that started us tend to be the things that pull us back into a certain area and saying like, hey, why have you gone off the beaten path? Why are you not doing this anymore?
Yeah, that's so interesting because when I first moved back to London, because I've lived in London before, but when I first moved back to London, this is probably 2011, I had a ghost in my flat, and it was like just heightened everything because I went from being kind of like sort of spiritual, like I would still pray a bit, and I'd still like ask the universe for help, and I was still like doing stuff like and like manifesting and stuff like that, but I wasn't really kind of doing any other work or like into it in any big way. And I moved into this flat, and the first night I was there, I like tucked myself into bed and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep now. And then I was woken up like all night with sounded like someone was going through my stuff. There were things dropping from the table onto the floor, like the hardwood floor. And then I had like that sleep paralysis thing where you're awake, but you're not awake. I was just like, fuck's sake, like, what is this? And then the next morning I was just like totally freaked out. So I started Googling like mediums. I started Googling like energy protection, psychic protection, like all this stuff. And that was kind of the thing that actually got me to where I am now, even though it was really hard to navigate through that. But yeah, it's really interesting that you that you said that, because that's just kind of reminded me of how much that situation was a kind of a point that was like a big nudge to be like, hey, like, what do you believe in?
Well, exactly. And for me, it's always been this connection to spirit. It's always been this connection to something bigger than myself, and always spirit showing up and guiding me and connecting me to something that is bigger than myself. Because what my experience is we just sometimes need to let the control piece go. We just need to let them guide us instead of trying to control it all the time. And I think it is one of the hardest pieces in spirituality. You know, like last night when this person showed up in my bedroom, I was pissed because I want to be sleeping at 4 o'clock in the morning. And and I also didn't want to be pushed around. But as soon as I just went, okay, I'll do what you want and I'll listen to what you have to say, it all came clear. And, you know, sometimes there is not a way, because I see it in my group all the time, you know, like, is there a ritual? Is there a, you know, a tarot spread? Is there a way to get an answer? And sometimes there isn't. And sometimes the answer doesn't come for like 6 months. So I know this thing that happened last night. And it's actually funny because the knocking is something I get a lot when I work with my friend's spirit box. So I messaged her. I'm like, don't think I'm crazy. You know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, but I think we need to have another session with the spirit box, because this box, essentially, out of it comes voices. Like, it is something I have never experienced before. If you love like ghost stories, this is, because as a medium, we hear those voices in our head. But then this totally validates it, because like there is stuff that comes out of it that I can't even, like, yeah, there's gobbledygook, but then like I'll be like, so when should I buy my yurt? And it'll go Wednesday. And I'm like,
oh my goodness.
Well, that's great, but what Wednesday am I supposed to be buying my yurt?
Next Wednesday? 2 years Wednesday?
Yeah. You never know. It could be any of that. So, you know, with this whole reconnection again to spirit last night, I'm really going to like ponder that and think like, where am I not connecting with spirit? You know, sometimes it's just stepping back, looking at the situation, not questioning it so much, and just allowing it to be an experience and not looking for answers in it, right? Yeah. When you're, you know, with your students, because you have an online group, you have it's the spiritual, is it Pit Stop?
Spiritual Journey Pit Stop.
Spiritual Journey Pit Stop, which is a phenomenal group. And then you have your private one, The Circle. What do you find that, you know, are people's struggles in the beginning of their journey from your experience?
I think a lot of people that we get in the Spiritual Journey Pit Stop group kind of come in and they're like, I'm new to spirituality and I'm new to the path and I just want to know where to start.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because there's so much information out there, right? Like, I remember, because I'm like, I don't want to say I'm old, I don't want to put that energy out there, but I'm not that young, and I remember, I think we've talked about this before too, like, I remember going to the New Age shop when I was a teenager, and the information that I would be able to get on witchcraft and Wicca and like, you had to go to this like one shop in the town that had the books on that stuff. Whereas now you just like Google it and you get loads of information, which is amazing, but you also get loads of information from different viewpoints and different practices. And like, you know, some people are sharing some great stuff on the internet. Some people are like, you know, they just found out something yesterday and they're already sharing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is one of the big issues is like, where do I start?
Yeah.
Like, how do I connect with my spiritual path?
Well, and two, like you were just saying, kind of finding a reputable person or group where you know the knowledge is factual. Because, you know, I've been in probably, even on my own journey, I've probably been in 100 different spiritual groups. And a lot of the time, it goes one of two ways. Either somebody is like, this is the be all and end all, and this is the only way that you should do it. Or there's groups that are like, oh my God, whatever goes there, you know, and I'm a no rules person, but there is still like correct knowledge and incorrect knowledge. So I'm very careful about researching and putting the right information out there. You know, did you see this whole Sephora witch kit blow up?
Yes.
It was
How could I not?
It was so huge. And I mean, the one thing that makes me so very proud about that is witches fucking showed up. Like, no matter like whether we were for it or against it, we showed up in like masses. And then there was one article that I just loved. The last line was, "There's way more of us than you realize." And I think it was a moment for the online community to realize, like, holy crap, like, don't piss off those witches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind
it's
of
exciting
phenomenal.
times.
It is exciting times. And to think about, like, you starting on your journey and only being able to go to one store, it was pretty similar for me, but you know, where I was out in the country, there were no stores. We had to travel like an hour into town to find, I think it was called the Mystic Bookshop. It still exists. But you know, there really was nothing. And I'm gonna be starting writing my second book when I head to Salem, and I've got my little laptop with my keyboard. Like, I'm so excited to write it. But I think the introduction is going to be about, even in the last 3 years since I wrote my last book, there's a line in my book where I said, I am not one of those witchy woo-woo women. And I remember writing that line, because now I'm like the queen, like the mistress of woo, right? But I remember writing that line because I didn't want people to judge me. And I didn't want people to kind of brush me aside because I was witchy. And that was 3 years ago. And now we're friggin' everywhere, and everything has shifted and changed. And I can't even imagine what 3 more years is going to bring. Yeah. How are you seeing that in your world?
Yeah, it's been interesting, you know, because like these last few years have really felt like a lifetime for so many reasons. But yeah, there has been a massive shift. Like, I remember even when I started my business, like there were quite a lot of people on YouTube. There was a lot of readers out there. There was a lot of people on Etsy doing readings and stuff like that. But it's like, it really feels like it's blown up. Like the amount of people that were there when I started, and I wasn't like by any means like one of the first to do this. Like, there's people who've been doing it for many years before me. But yeah, like there's been so many people who've like, well, there's been a lot of people who've come and gone, but there's just been like this, wow, like suddenly everybody's posting readings on YouTube. Everybody's sharing about like their thoughts on stuff. Yeah, it's really exciting. But then, of course, with that comes all of the judgment and, interestingly, the persecution against each other now for like, oh, you don't do things the way I do them, so you're wrong.
Yes. Oh, I think I created my little course, Ritual Without Rules, because I really just wanted to tell the world, like, I don't follow any rules, so if you come to me with judgment about how I do my ceremony, about how I do my spiritualism, about how I do, just don't even. We all have our own spiritual path, and I really do think that that's the important thing for people to understand when it comes to spirituality, that you can really just, and I think that's why spirituality has taken off like it has, because it really is choose your own adventure. Like, you know, you come from a Christian background, but you have that witch piece and you have all of these things. There's no, like, you don't have to claim that you're Wiccan. You don't have to claim that you're Christian. You don't have to claim that it can just be this lovely bubble of whatever you want it to be. And, you know, I do, personally, I think we're all witches, but I think that really we're all healers if anybody's on that spiritual journey, and not even if you're just female, if you're male and or female, we have this connection to the earth. That energy that we connect to comes from the earth. But I feel like you can choose to be anything this day and age. And I think that's why it's such an awesome path to be on, that truly it's about healing ourselves. There's so many people out there that are like, how many tarot decks do you have? And how often do you do a reading? And what kind of crystals do you have? And all of this. And I tell people all the time, and it's the dumbest sales pitch ever, because I own a metaphysical shop. You do not need the tools, people. You do not need any of that stuff. And if anybody judges you for not having the right tools or not saying things the right way, then they're not on a spiritual path, because the spiritual path is a non-judgmental path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been really interesting, like, because you just mentioned about how I have like this Christian aspect and the witchy aspect, and I wrote this blog post which you're probably familiar with, called WTF is a Christian Witch.
Yes.
And it was just kind of like, I'm coming out as a witch, because I didn't use the word witch for a really long time.
Yep.
I was happy with the word spiritual. I was happy with the word new age. Like, all of that stuff felt good, and it felt safe, and it felt like that's who I am in this lifetime. And then I just got to this point where I was like, you know what? I am a witch, damn it, and I'm going to own it. But I also really like some of the Christian stuff. And I feel like to just call myself a witch isn't really being totally true to who I am, because, I have pictures of Jesus up everywhere, and it's like, that's so much a part of my path as well.
Yeah.
So I wrote that post, and the response to that post was so interesting.
Was it?
I thought that I was going to get like completely torn apart by the Christian community.
Yeah.
And sometimes that happens. Sometimes I still get a comment on there from someone who's Christian who just says that I'm going to hell, and it's like, thanks. thanks for your comment, like, delete. Yeah. But it was really interesting to see the response from some of the people in the witchy community.
Yeah.
Who were just like, you're not one of us. Like, people were just disowning me all over the place. Yeah, it was really interesting. I had people unfollow me, unfriend me.
Wow.
I was like, wow, it's really interesting. And when I think about the response that I've had to that post, like, there were way more negative responses from the witchy community than there was from the Christian community. Right. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I really feel, and I struggle with using the word witch, just because I think it's so ingrained in me that when you say that, you're going to be attacked. But we're moving into this new, because I grew up in a very Christian community north of London here in Ontario, and I wasn't allowed to say that. If I said that, like, we would probably have a burning cross on our front lawn, or like something crazy, right? And we just avoided it like the plague. And I still struggle with saying that. But the witchy community is the one that has totally embraced me, totally accepted me no matter what I do. And, I'm a part of the spiritualist church here in Canada too. Like, I'm a card-carrying member. And I have had more issues with the church than I have had with my community. When I write about it in my book, that I kind of got booted out from doing readings for a while because they didn't like me going barefoot. And I just think to myself, like, what? But this is how I read, and it's nothing about being professional. It's just about, like, this is how I connect. So you're gonna have to, like, figure it out. So I totally agree. I really feel like, especially witches, we've been so, like, pushed down over the millennia that I think we just are like, come on in, like, just be whoever you want to be and be accepted. And plus the other thing is, the more people we have on our side, the more, fun it is. Like, who wants to be practicing by themselves? I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about how spirituality shows up in your day-to-day life.
It's my whole day.
Yeah.
It's like all day, every day. Um, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I do yoga. Most days I do yoga, probably like 5 or 6 days a week. I do yoga and then I meditate and pull my own cards for myself. And I just really, before I do anything for anybody else, I just make that time to just kind of connect and do my own woo-woo thing.
Yeah.
And then it's so much of it's really interesting, like when you run a spiritual business and you're a spiritual person, like so much of your life, like everything is kind of just connected.
Yeah.
You know, it's like nothing feels like work. Everything feels like work. It's like, yeah, you know, like my whole day is really kind of, centered around like being of service to other people and sharing my path and sharing my practices and, supporting other people to find those ways for themselves as well. But yeah, like my life really changed like when I started to sit down and do that work for myself every morning. Like it made such a huge difference in my energy, in my mindset, in just everything.
Yeah. Well, and I'm constantly telling people that you have to find the thing that works for you. I mean, for me, because I have a young child that he started a new school, we have to be up at 6:45. And he has to be on the bus at 7:30 in the morning. So it's like changed everything. But it's also gotten me up earlier. And now when he gets on the bus at 7:30 in the morning, I just walk up the driveway and sit on my couch with a coffee because I have a couch outside. I sit on this couch and just listen to the birds. And that's my first spiritual moment. Is sitting with my coffee and grounding down into nature, right? And it doesn't have to be ritualistic. Like that's the piece too. I think people are looking for, well, should I be facing east or should I cast a circle or should I do all of these things? And no, breath can be a ritual, right? You know, the just the thought of slowing down for a second and taking a sip of tea or coffee, that can be a ritual as long as it's, you know, helping you down a path so you can clear your mind and you can understand your journey. And it's not necessarily, because I see it all the time, people get addicted to pulling cards. I think there should be an AA for card pulling.
Yeah. I'll be from right.
You know, and I think we get the whole manifesting thing that is, you know, that kind of has gone wild the past 10, 15 years. Everybody wants to manifest things and I get it. But spirituality is not about receiving things. You said it perfectly. Being in service. Like, I feel like I am in service to spirit every single day. And part of that is about listening to them. Like last night when they woke me up at 4:00 in the morning and said like, knock, 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 get out of bed and pay attention to us. By me saying yes, that's me being in service to spirit, you know. And then by waking up and doing a lovely WOOculture live with you and talking about spirituality, that's being in service to spirit and giving. Because this is the other thing that I see is it's all about take. Where can I cast a spell? Where can I pull some tarot cards? What can I get? What can I get? What can I get? And the thing that is missing is the gratitude, the offering. You know, I have a little altar and sometimes I offer at my altar, but sometimes I go and offer out to, like, you could feed squirrels and ducks and that could be an offering to Mother Earth, right? As long as you do it with intention. But we have to remember that it's this whole give and take thing. And if we're not giving, we can't always be taking.
Yeah, I feel that so much, and I'm feeling more and more called to kind of talk about that as well, because I do think that we've gone on this weird, like, it's all about manifesting, and yeah, I mean, I've tried it. Like, I've done it. I've been like, okay, what am I going to manifest this new moon? Here's my list of like 20 things that I want.
Yeah.
I'm going to just burn that, put that in a cauldron and sit here and wait for all of those things. And like, that's really interesting when you do that, and then you get pissed off because the universe doesn't bring it to you, or you feel like, oh my goodness, I must have done something wrong, like I must not be worthy enough, I mustn't be good enough, like why aren't I getting these things that I want? And I've done a lot of work on myself to like pull that back to the place where it's like, well, what am I here to do?
Yeah.
Like, what am I really here to do? Like, am I here to manifest the Gucci bag, or am I here to? And no disrespect to people who are on that path. Like, if you can manifest a Gucci bag, and that's something that you can do, and that's something that's a part of your path, and it feels good and in alignment, then please go and do that. But I don't think for most of us that's what it's about.
No.
And I see a lot of people try to manifest all of this stuff, you know, like trying to manifest big cash amounts, trying to manifest like more clients for their business. Like, people are trying to manifest all of this stuff, and then it doesn't happen. And then it's like, well, manifesting doesn't work, magic doesn't work, the universe hates me, like, I give up.
I know. I see it all the time, you know, and it blows my mind, because first of all, what I teach when I teach manifesting is start small, people. Don't ask the universe for $3 million, because I hate to tell you, it's not showing up.
Yeah.
And I mean, hey, so, like, we've had this conversation before. Some people are amazing at manifesting money, but they're probably putting in the work to make that money show up. Like, you can't just say, hey, I want $20,000, and then just, you know, like, sit and twiddle your thumbs while you're like, I wonder where that $20,000 is coming from. Like, that's not how it works. Like, you've got to like do all the manifesting and then work your butt off to make the $20,000 or put in the work. You know, I commented on your new moon thread today about what I was grateful for, and I'm really grateful for the fact that I really feel like I've established my foundation. I'm hitting my stride. Like, now it's getting to the point where I feel like it's easy to run or easier, let's not say easy yet. It's easier to run my business. Like, I have a consistent, readings. I have consistent sales in the shop. I'm always have people showing up to my lives, and it just is. But the thing that people forget is it's been like probably 10, 12 years of building that foundation and putting in all that hard work and doing the daily and like every single month doing a full moon and a new moon and talking to the goddess and talking to the gods and, you know, doing all of that work. And now there's some months where I don't manifest because I don't need anything. And I just give gratitude. I just give gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think people have to realize that, you know, I'm, you know, the first person that's going to tell you ritual gives you clarity. But if you're clear, you don't necessarily have to do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked about a lot of that stuff in, I have an online course called, what is it called? Money Love.
Yes.
I created that out of so much of the stuff that I had worked through and so much stuff I've been through on my money journey, my money and manifesting, my abundance, prosperity, like all of the stuff that I had been kind of doing in that part of my life. And like so much of it came down to this place where it's like, well, if I'm being of service and I feel like I'm useful to the planet and the people in it, and I have food on the table and I have a roof over my head, and I have people around me who care about me, like, to me, that's prosperity. To me, that's it. Like, that's abundance. Like, I'm healthy. The bills, like, I don't need to sit here and, like, write a list of, like, all of the material things that I want. Like, I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what people tend to forget, too, is that abundance also doesn't just mean monetary abundance. Abundance means abundance in all things. Like, do you have a roof over your head? Do you have food in the fridge? Do you have a happy, healthy family? Those things are abundance too. So we can ask for things that are not just monetary. Now, I want to let you guys know that everybody that's watching, thank you for all your comments. If you have any questions specifically about spirituality and your journey or something you may be stuck on, you can also ask us, because I do see your comments come up. What would you say has been either a book, a deck, or a tool that has kind of moved you forward? Like, was there something that you read that you were just like, oh my God, this made it clear? Or was it multiple things? Because there was a couple things for me that just was like, boo, now I get it.
I don't know, I need to think about it. Share yours.
Yeah, okay. So, when Dwayne Dyer was around, I didn't watch him like all the time, but I would be on Hay House, the TV or whatever it's called, Hay House Live, and I would watch every once in a while. And one time he mentioned this book, The Impersonal Life, and it's this little wee tiny book, and it's the channeled word of God, and I think it's from like, I want to say like 18 something or 19 something, like it's an older book. But he spoke so highly of it, and he said he always kept a copy with him. So I'm like, I gotta check this shit out. And back then, I still really struggled with the word God. I wasn't spiritually enlightened to the point where I realized, oh, it's all the same anyway. So I'm just gonna, I'll just put it under what label I need to put it under. But God to me, because I grew up in that community, it was still this like thing I had fear around. So I started reading it, and you know, I've read a little bit of the Bible, you know, because I went to like a Christian-y school, so they had like Bible study, all of those things. So he was talking about Adam and Eve, and he talked about how he made Adam of Eve, or no, he created Adam in his likeness, right? And in that piece, he put a piece of him in Adam. And then there was this whole piece of, well, if Adam is God and Adam is our like beginning, then we all have God inside of us. And then if we all have, and this is what he was talking about, and then if we all have God inside of us, we are all creators. We all create everything that we do. If we want abundance, we need to create it. If we want, you know, clarity, we need to create it. And we have the ability to do that. And for me, it was like this moment of like, ding, ding, ding. Quit fucking blaming people for your shit, like, life. Quit fucking blaming people for all the stuff that pisses you off. You are your own creator. And I think for me, that was just like, that was amazing. And it was funny because I stopped reading the book at that point. I was like, that's all I needed to know.
You go when you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. I need to put that on my to read list.
Yes. It's a good one.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I can't think of like a specific thing, but you know, like what you were saying, so much shifted for me when I started taking responsibility for what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think I see a lot in spiritual groups and places where people, like, there's a difference between taking responsibility and blaming yourself.
Right.
Because I see a lot of people blaming themselves and being like, well, I'm sick, so I must be doing something wrong.
Right.
Which I don't think is the point. Like, if you're sick, then that sucks. And sometimes people get sick because we live in human bodies that are not perfect. But it's like, okay, you're in that situation. Like, what can you do?
Yeah.
Like, how can you make the best of what you have? You know, it's not so much about blaming yourself for where you get to. It's like, what can I do with this?
Yeah. And
how can I, like, be the person that I want to be through whatever is happening to me? What? And sometimes that means just, you know, it's taking some time out and healing, going away and, like, being on your own. Yeah. Sometimes that's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah. Somebody asked in my group yesterday about grief and how to deal with grief. And, you know, as a medium and a seer, I get that question a lot. And they're really, for any of these questions, there's no one specific answer because everybody's journey is going to be different. But when my dad passed away almost 4 years ago, it shifted everything for me because it made me realize that mortality is even though I talk to dead people, it's right here. It could
happen. A thing. Yeah.
It's a real thing. This is
yeah.
I need to get my shit together because, eventually one day I am going to die. And it's why I have this little skull necklace. It says in Latin, we only have one life. You really have to, and I know that challenges the whole thing about reincarnation, but I have opinions about that we probably won't get into. But
ooh, I really want to know.
You really want to know? Okay, we'll get into it. But, it made me realize that I can't just sit around and wait for somebody to show up and make it all better. That I had to maybe, and I think I was putting a lot of pressure on my husband to be the all for me, to have the answers for me. And when my dad passed away, of course my husband doesn't have any answers about why did my dad die and why did it he's not. So it was this I had to re-find myself. I had to really, what's important to me? Well, traveling is really important. So in 2 years I went on 6 trips. I went and saw the world. I started doing the things that I had prevented myself from doing up until that point because I just thought eventually I would get there, but I was waiting for somebody else to say yes. I was always waiting for my husband to say yes to going traveling. He hates traveling. And we finally had that conversation. He's like, I don't want to go anywhere, so just go. And it's the best thing ever because now I just travel by myself. But, we have to put in the work. It really isn't for somebody else to do for us, and it's definitely not for spirit to do everything for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not going to show up with a truckload of $1 million and heal us all and do all those things because we've been put on this earth to be human and have a spiritual life. So yes, you can do all of this energy work towards raising your energy up, but it's work. And it never stops. That's the other piece. I think that's the piece that I really wanted to get through with this is even though I feel like I've hit my stride and everything's good, there's always going to be things that are going to challenge you, that are going to show up. I mean, I constantly talk about my friendship battles with people coming into my life and being super awesome and then being like, ooh, what can I take from you? And then run away. That's been one of my challenges and I'm working on it. I'm doing some heavy duty work on it. And, people also ask me, well, what do you mean by doing heavy duty work? I chat with healers. I consult my tarot cards. I go and physically have massage and bars therapy and all sorts of stuff done. Because you can't just sit and wait for somebody else to fix it. You have to do the work. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never done so much work in my life since I started my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's if you want to help other people, you got to make sure that your shit's together.
Well, and that's the piece too. I also want to look at all these modalities so I can tell people about them. I want to, really truly understand them. So then in turn I can say, well, this would really help you in this area. I've been doing, and I think Marlene's on here. Hi, Marlene. I've been doing some sessions with Marlene Cronin, who I met through your group, and we, yeah.
She's so great.
She is so great. And it's, I will say light language is phenomenal, but some people look at it and go, oh dear God, what is that? It's not for everybody, but you've got to find the tools that help you. So yeah, somebody else is asking about reincarnation and past lives. So
yes, oh my goodness, please, no.
So I've done a WOOculture live specifically on this subject before, so we won't get too deep. But my belief and what I've come to understand, especially through connecting with spirit, is that it is a genetic memory. So I have my grandmother's experiences stored within me. and it feels like a memory. And reincarnation, myself, I truly believe this, that reincarnation is left for like the Dalai Lama, for like truly spiritual people that needs to come back to help us. So you never know. Maybe if we raise our vibration so high, Vix, we'll be selected for that for that journey. But what are your thoughts around it? Because I know you do past life readings.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about it, and I always say to people when I'm doing past life work with them that I don't think it matters what it is. Yeah. Like, I don't think it matters where this information is coming from. This is a story. You can look at these archetypes, you can look at these patterns, you can look at what's going on here, and you can find some healing in this. Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether it's an ancestral memory, whether it is something that's been implanted to help you understand like humanity. It doesn't matter if it's an actual past life that you've experienced or just a story that can help you to shift something and change something for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always say that to people, but I do feel like there's a lot of different things going on, and I have like a couple of past lives that feel very real. Yep. Like I am like 98% certain that happened, and it was my soul and I was there. And then I have all of these other past lives, like just hundreds and hundreds of things that come through that feel like they're sort of mine, but it doesn't feel the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like seeing this is really helping me to move through this thing.
Yeah.
I'm more like, okay, maybe 50-50. Like, is this really me? Did I really experience this? Or is this something else? There's that great book, I forget what the book is called. I think it's by Dolores Cannon. And it talks about the idea that if you resonate with the starseed and you feel like you came here from a different planet to help humanity, that many of us have had like these past lives implanted into our brains to help us to understand what the human experience is.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily that we've experienced those. It can just be like something that we've been given to help us to have compassion and help us to understand how we can be of service here. So I found that really fascinating. I still feel like the jury's a little bit out for me on like exactly what's going on, but I feel like there's a lot of different things going on.
Well, and I think this is the thing too that people have to understand about spirituality is your opinions on your beliefs can change every single day.
Yes.
You don't have to decide and then that is what I believe and this is my, book of shadows or Bible or whatever, and that's where you have to stay. It can constantly shift and change. And, I used to believe 100% in reincarnation, that we came back and all of those. And then when I started talking to spirit on a daily basis, I was like, but they're still here. So how can they be crossed over if they're still here? So I constantly going back and forth about this. Am I connecting to their memories? But no, because I'm having a conversation with them about this moment in time and they're seeing things that their loved ones are doing. So I'm the same as you. Like I have not decided because I am open. And then a couple of Fridays ago, I did a healing session with Marlene, and when she was doing the healing, I saw myself as a guy. I was male and I was an Aztec. And two other Aztecs were pulling me up onto this sacrificial stone. And I just remember being completely happy, completely ready to do what I was going to do. And they literally, like, I'm alive, and they cut my heart out and sacrificed it for the good of the village. And it sounds like it should have been really traumatic. But in that moment, I realized that I've done this. I've sacrificed my heart for people before. And that I have to understand that that's my journey, is to fully, completely give my heart. So then I can't do this blocking protective thing all the time, or else I wouldn't be completely giving of myself. I have to put my heart out there, know it's going to get squished, and then just get some fucking Palo Santo at the end of the night and do one of these. Right? And clear away all the crap that clings onto it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's intense.
It was. But, you know, and that was the first past life experience I had had in a session that was not something that is recognizable in my life. Like, I have had past lives that were connected to my birthplace, right? That were connected to England. I have had past lives that have been in North America, but I had never had anything like that. So it was this real eye-opener for me. I'm like, so where did that come from? You know, like, now I'm like, ooh, what else is in there that I need to, like, pull out?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating topic, and I think that the best thing we can do as spiritual people is to be open, right?
Yeah.
Because when you start saying, like, this is how it is, and this is what past lives are, then that's when, I don't know, that's when it gets messy to me. Like, that's when it's like, that doesn't feel so good.
Yeah.
It's like we're just rewriting the Bible.
Yeah.
For ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
No, I'm constantly telling people to just trust and surrender. And I think it's probably the hardest thing to do on this journey. But I know for me, when I finally just went, you know what? I don't need to know where any of this information is coming from. I just have to trust that the right information is showing up at the right time, and I'm just going to give it off as I get it, and I'm going to share with the world, and I will, you know, and I pretty much can guarantee that the right people are hearing what I need, you know, to put out in the world. That's when it got way better. When I stopped questioning and I stopped, you know, and I'm completely an open book, and I am completely open, like, hey, if Judaism shows up in my life and there's something about it that I need to learn, I am going to fully embrace that. Like, I just go wherever I am led. And some people think that that's dangerous because you're not, like, creating a construct and you're not protecting yourself. But I also think this whole idea of protection sometimes is too much. I think there's so much fear in it. I think there's so much worry in it that what I have learned is when you truly step into the light, nothing can affect you. What are your thoughts about that one?
Yeah, I go through phases with what I need to do with my energy protection, and sometimes I need to do, I wouldn't say I ever really do, like, a lot, but sometimes I need to do more, and sometimes I'm just like, I'm visualizing myself in a bubble of light and all good. Like, that's done. I do work with Archangel Michael a lot, and at the moment I just call on him as, like, part of my daily practice, and I just say, thanks for being around, thanks for protecting me, my business, my loved ones. Like, that's kind of it. Like, it's just kind of like, thanks for looking after us today. But I have been through phases where I have felt like, oh God, I got to protect my energy against all these energy vampires and all these, like, spirits that are trying to get to me and trying to get my energy, and it is not like, it's not useful.
No,
it's not useful to do your protective stuff from that place of, I have to protect myself against these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I find the more that I focus on it, like, if I feel, because you do, like, I know when somebody's talking shit about me. Like, you just get this, like, little, like, and I'm like, what is going on? But what I used to do was I used to go into panic mode and be like, let's call in everybody to protect me. But I feel like the more that you focus on that, the more you draw it in. So now what I do is I go, ooh, that felt shitty, bat it away. And I don't even think about it. Yes, sure, I do this little thing where I send it, like, you know, I banish whatever that was, but it's quick and easy, and I'm not, like, you know, casting a circle and lighting some black candles and doing a whole bunch of, you know, magical workings. I'm just going, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, because I used to, I've been through phases with energies in certain places and at certain times, and I have found myself more so with people than with spirit. I felt like I need to protect myself. I need to create some like shields around me when I'm with this person, because that person has bad energy and that person sends their energy, like their shitty energy, to me. And as soon as I started to kind of like reframe that and start to kind of ask, okay, why are they sending that to me? Yeah. Why am I receiving that? What are the lessons here? How can this help me to grow and learn? As soon as I started to ask those questions, it's like, oh, okay, so actually, is that really their negativity, or is that my judgment around who they are as a person? Or is this just a really great learning opportunity for me? Is this an opportunity for me to show somebody some love who might not have very much in their life?
Yeah.
So once you start to look at things like that, like I found that helps my protection practice like so much. And I always kind of say, like, actually compassion is one of my favorite protection tools, especially when working with other people. It's like, if you can have compassion for someone when they're when they're talking shit about you or they're sending you negative energy, if you can just look at them with, and it's hard to do sometimes, but if you can try to look at them with compassion and see like who they are, what they've been through, why they're doing that, then it's like, oh, okay, like, bless them. I hope that they find their way.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like, it's no problem. Then it's like, oh, that's great.
Yeah, no,
they're happy.
I definitely do this thing now of, it's not mine. Like, that's not mine to hold on to. That energy doesn't belong to me. And then I just kind of, move along. I do this thing with peppermint soap in the shower too. Like, I brush off every single morning any negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are not mine. I wash off. I haven't been doing it lately because I actually haven't been feeling it. But in the beginning, when I started to do it, I needed, because I didn't want to bring anybody else's energy into my own practice. And I didn't want it in the back of my mind. Like, I didn't want to be questioning anything. And I just felt it was just this really simple, easy thing. I'm going to take a shower anyway, so I might as well do it in the shower. But yeah, the more that I, work it into my daily routine, so it's not like this big ceremony, it becomes so much easier. And then you don't necessarily focus on the negativity, because you're just like, oh, this is just a daily practice. That whole thing with smudging my heart, like, I just have to do that every day. And it's not because I'm being attacked or any of those things. It's like self-care. Just like I brush my teeth, I'm going to cleanse my energy. And, people need to pay more attention to that thing, because our energy is so important. Where we spend it, where we, what energy do we take on from others, and what energy are we putting out there in the world? I see it all the time with people that are like so negative. Every single one of their comments is negative. And then they're shocked that their life isn't high vibe. Like, that's one thing that baffles me. And I've told people in my group, do an experiment. Like, write only positive things in your Facebook feed, or only repost positive things in your Facebook feed, and see what shows up. Because I bet you anything, it's all positive all of a sudden. And that's just Facebook.
The magic of Facebook. I know. It's so true. It's so true. Like, I felt huge shifts when I was still working full time in school. I was around a lot of people who were really negative, and we all had a reason to be negative because it was a tough school to work in. Yeah. And there was all sorts of issues going on different levels, and like just crazy stuff going on. And so it made sense that people were feeling negative, and that people were like in that space. And I'd gotten myself into that as well. Like, I was negative. I hated going to work. And when I started to protect my energy, that was the first thing I did. I started to put myself in the shield. And then as soon as I did that, I was very quickly noticing, that's not mine, that's not mine, that's not mine. And I realized very quickly that the negativity that I had created within myself and my own life was like, it was just feeding off everybody who was around me. And then I was putting it back out as well, right? Like, it's not like, oh, well, I was just feeding off then. It's like, I was doing it too.
Yeah.
Like I was just as bad, sending it back out to everybody else. And then when I started to change the way I spoke about things, and I started to avoid the staff room at lunchtime, and I started to kind of like really be aware of like what I was saying about myself and other people, you know, I was out of that school in a couple of months. It was like, okay, now I'm working for myself, you know? And it was like a huge shift. It was a huge, huge shift.
Well, and people don't understand how important it is for that energy piece. Like, you know, I know that some people are in a work situation that they can't just leave, but also think about how can you make strides to either shift the energy at work or start to look elsewhere so you can have an exit plan. Because a lot of people stay at the same place, do the same thing, and expect different results. And that's not helping anybody. You know, like I said earlier, we've only got this one life. Yes, we may come back, or yes, we haven't decided yet, but we're only living this one once. We only get one kick at this can. So do you want to live in misery? And do you want to absorb all this negativity? Or do you want to say, hey, I'm going to change this? Because the only person that can change your situation is you. You're the only one in control. As much as we love our partners, as much as we love our family, as much as we love our parents, they cannot come and scoop us up and save us. It's our decision to make that change. And really, that's the whole spirituality piece. You have to decide to live positively. You have to decide to accept what is being given to you. And even you have to decide to see it. You know, I tell people all the time, magic is around us 24/7, but you have to decide to see it. It is a choice. So, you know, it all comes down to that. How much do you want to put in? You know, not necessarily like, oh dear, you have to do a morning ritual, an evening ritual, all of that stuff, but how much do you want to believe that it's there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like some people get confused too when we're talking about like positivity and like not being negative. And there's this kind of idea of like spiritual bypassing and like, oh, I'm just throwing glitter onto shit and like pretending that it's not happening. Like, that's not what it means. Like sometimes the most high vibe thing that you can do is say, you know what, I'm in a really difficult place right now. I feel like shit about myself. I'm going to turn off my phone and I'm going to just go and sit on the couch and spend a few days just moping, because that is exactly what my soul needs right now. It's not always like, it's not about pretending that everything's fine. It's about noticing how you're feeling and taking responsibility for that in the moment and doing what you can with that. Even if it just means like going to bed.
Well, doing the work, right? Like doing the pieces and taking care of yourself first and foremost. You know, a lot of people ask me all the time, how do you give so much? Because I take so much. Like there's a big massive couch over here where I after this I'll probably go have a nap because Spirit woke me up at 4:00 in the morning. So I need to take a break. Mondays are my day, aside from talking to lovely people, is my day for me to do whatever I want to do. And I make sure that that is like top priority, that I am taking care of myself first and foremost, that I'm eating properly, that I'm drinking enough water, that I'm, you know, healthy. Like I just booked my physical for my doctors, my yearly physical that I haven't had for 3 years. Like that's about being spiritual too. Like we've got to physically take care of our bodies because spirituality is connected to our body. You know, you were talking about, you know, doing your yoga in the morning. I need to get out and start walking more. I need to be, because our joints get stiff and our body will react physically. I mean, you know, look at the chakras. If your throat chakra's off, you're going to have a scratchy, sticky voice and you feel like you can't talk. So these things will manifest themselves physically if we're not taking care of them. So, oh my God, this has been an amazing chat. We could probably talk for hours.
Yeah.
I know. I don't even remember how we connected. Oh, you're frozen. We'll wait for you to come back in a little bit. There we go. Somebody just asked, how do we cope when change takes a long time? Just, we're in for the long haul. I think everybody's in for the long haul. Do you have any advice for that one, Vix?
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about this just before we got on the call today about transitions and how, like, life is kind of just a transition. And how it's like, because I feel like I'm always saying, like, oh, we're going through this transitional time. Like, we're going through big changes right now. I feel like we're constantly evolving. Like, we're constantly moving from one thing to the next thing. And by the time you're at that next place, and this happens with manifesting all the time, right? When you're like, I really want this thing, and then you get it, and you're like, but I'm like already thinking about this thing over here by the time you get it. And then it's like, okay, thanks, whatever. Yeah. But it's like we're always moving through it. And if you are constantly waiting to get to that next point, you're not going to be living your life.
No.
You're going to just be like waiting for the time when everything is done. It's like, this is it. Yeah. Like, this is life, guys. Like, it's happening now.
Yeah.
Like, I've always...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I've always had this idea of, like, oh, I'm going to be a successful writer, and I'm going to have this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to have this big house, and it's going to be on the beach, and whatever. And it's like, I'm 38 years old. I don't have all of those things yet.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend the next 38 years waiting for those things. It's like, this is happening.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we are right now.
I know.
So yeah, I think it's a combination of things, like finding a way to be present, finding that way to kind of realize that your life is happening right now. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that you can't set goals and you can't be working towards something that's coming later. But if we're not here and realizing we're already doing it, we're already living our life purpose, we're already in it. Like, it's happening. Sometimes we just need to remember that.
Exactly. Well,
I need to remember that, like, daily.
I'm the same. And people in business probably think I'm really crazy, but I kind of stopped setting goals for myself. Because I found especially monetary goals, I stopped setting monetary goals. And actually last month was the first time I not set a monetary goal, and I made way more than I had ever made in the past because I didn't put the pressure around it, and I just did the work. Like, I kept banging it out, and I wasn't so focused on it has to be the certain way, and even in my business, people are like, well, where is this going? What are you going to do? And I have in my mind kind of goals, like I'd love to have a center where people can come and physically do all of these healings and all of this work. But like, I haven't said what's got to happen by this time and I've got to be this age and this is what it has to look like. Because even if I look at the last 6 months of my life, my idea for what I wanted 6 months ago to what I want now is so changed. It has changed so much. So we can't really, the idea of goal setting, I think it's great to have like vague goals, like an idea of where you want to go. But setting stuff in stone actually limits your ability to become abundant because you're so focused on that one goal. What if there's all these other opportunities?
Yeah.
Right? It was so funny. I had to cancel a workshop for something. And because my mother-in-law, like, she's been ill. So I didn't want to have this workshop on this one weekend. And lo and behold, she's gotten a lot better. And this has happened within 6 months. Lo and behold, she's gotten a lot better, feeling way better. And I get a call to do a conference that weekend to speak at it. And I haven't, this is the first time I'm going to announce this to the world. The headliner is Deepak Chopra, and I'm freaking going to be talking at this conference, and it's in Toronto. It's called Blistum. It's $500 a ticket. And that was not in my cards. It was not within my realm. I had planned a workshop for that weekend, but Spirit just allowed me to have the space. You know, if I had focused on, oh, I got to book that workshop, I got to make that certain amount of money, I got to do it this way, I got to have that, magic wouldn't have had room to happen. Right?
Yeah, I was, well, a sort of similar story, not really similar at all, but when I was teaching, before I quit my teaching job, I really wanted to be a writer, like I really wanted to write fiction. And my plan was to start writing some books and then quit my teaching job and be a full-time writer. That was the plan. And then along came New Age Hipster, just sort of evolved, just sort of happened, and I was constantly led to like do some readings, do this next thing, write about this, like post this. And suddenly New Age Hipster took on a life of its own, and it became a business, like a sustainable business, a successful business that allowed me to quit my teaching job and do spiritual work full time. And throughout that whole time, I've been like, what about my books? What about my books? Like, when am I going to bring my books out?
Yeah.
And now I'm at the point now where it's like, well, it's happening, like, you know, in 2 weeks time, like my book is going to be released. And my plan was to have that book released like 4 years ago, but the universe was like, girlfriend, like you've got some other stuff that you need to do. Yeah. And if I had just set that goal of I'm just going to be a writer and ignored the universe and ignored all of these messages about start a spiritual blog, why don't you get out your tarot cards again? If I had been so focused on my goal, like New Age Hipster wouldn't exist. And all the people that I've read for and all the people that I've taught to connect to their own intuition, like none of that would have happened.
Yeah, exactly.
So having that space of being like, you know what, this is my goal, this is what I want, but, you know, I'm open to going wherever.
Yeah.
Like, if that's not where I'm supposed to go right now,
it's like
show me where it is.
With my second book, there has been so much pressure in the past 3 years to write my next book. Like, when's it coming out? What's it going to be about? Is it going to like blah, blah, like so much noise from everybody. And I appreciate it because it means I did a good job on the first one, that everybody wants the second one. But for me, writing is this channeling moment. Like I tune in and the words just come through me. Like I was saying, I'm going to start writing my book on this trip to Salem. And I already know the first like paragraph because it was gifted to me, right? Mm-hmm. So I think when we don't allow for that to happen, we've been on for an hour and 11 minutes. When we don't allow that to happen, we mess with destiny. We mess with spirits, you know, their idea of what we're going to become in this world. And I see it sometimes, not just in the spiritual world, but in the business world where people are pushing so hard to make something happen and they keep hitting their head against a wall. And what they're supposed to be doing is right beside them, you know, like so right beside them. And it's like, you just need to go, and see this thing that's like right here for you, you know? So just allowing it to show up when it needs to show up, I think is the key, and not getting impatient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes.
Oh, it is.
It is hard sometimes, but
trust me. Yeah.
It's trust, right?
Yeah. For a whole entire year, I was getting the 8 of Swords, like in pretty much every single pull that I did, which is pretty much the universe saying, fuck you, you're not allowed to do anything. And I was just like, come on. But now that I look back at that, I had a friend at the time tell me, this is spirit telling you to take some downtime, because this is the beginning. Like, it's from here, it just gets busier and busier and busier. Yeah. And I just thought to myself, oh, whatever. Like, I'm so ready to be busy. But I did take that. I know. I did take that time, thankfully, because since then I have not stopped. Like, there hasn't really been a break. So, you know, now when I receive those cards or when I see that message, I always go, oh, I will take this month off, or, oh, I will take this time, Spirit. If somebody cancels, I'm like, thank you. Yeah, I used to hustle so hard, and I kind of got to the point now where it's like, if there is space that I can take, then I will take it, because I know what it's like when the space isn't there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm sure you got to get on and do some readings, or it's at nighttime over there now, right? Like, what time is it?
It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
4 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh.
Yeah, it's tea time.
It's tea time. Perfection.
Tea and
I
a
love
biscuit.
it. I miss
Yes.
tea. I miss it so much. I think I'm coming back next year to England.
Yay!
So yeah, I'm gonna try to make that happen. So thank you, Vix, for being on here. Can you please let everybody know we're gonna put all the links down below, but how they can connect with you via social media and all the goodness?
Yeah, there's so many different places. The best place to go to start is just my website, which is newagehipster.co, or you can just Google New Age Hipster and you'll find it. And that will take you to like my YouTube channel, like all of the other places. Instagram is where I hang out the most. I love Instagram. It's such a nice community. And I'm New Age Hipster 333 over on Instagram. Yeah, and I think everything's pretty much on my website. There's also a link on my website to info about my novel and the circle and my self-study classes and how you can work with me and everything else.
Yeah. I'm going to post your book launch party thing on my page and in my group, because I know as an author, like, you want everybody buying on that day. Let's make Vix's book a bestseller, everybody.
Yeah, that would be like, I'm
would
totally open for that
Yes.
if it's meant to be.
Well, and sometimes it takes a community, so put it out there. Let everybody know that your book is coming out and that we can all go on and buy it. And I love that genre. Like, I was the Twilight, like, I read those books so many times.
I love Twilight so much that I actually went to Forks.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I got on a plane and I went to Forks, yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I don't think we've ever talked about this before. I watched Twilight. Here's the thing. We should start this new game. I watched Twilight so much that I actually felt like I was cheating on my husband with Edward. That's how bad it got. Like, I would be like, oh my God, I can't wait to get home to watch Twilight. And I'd be out on a date with my husband. Like, it was so bad. But there's just this innocence about it. And I'm probably going to lose like 1 million followers by saying how much I love Twilight, but I don't care. It was just, there was the innocence to it, that remembering of the first time you fell in love and how painful it was and how joy-filled it was, and who doesn't love vampires and werewolves? Yeah.
Big fan.
Big fan. I can't believe you went to Forks. That's awesome.
I'll send you some pictures.
Yes, please.
Or maybe I'll post them on my Instagram and tag you.
My God, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'll put it up for what's it called? Throwback Thursday.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that on Thursday. I write myself a note.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks.
And then I'll lose like millions of followers.
I mean, you know what?
Oh, well.
People have to love all of us. If they love us, they have to love all of us, and this is part of us, right? Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining me, and
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Like I said, we could talk for probably hours about so many different subjects. We'll have you back again when your book comes out, and we'll talk about that. So yay! Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your tea. And thank you, WooMates, for showing up today. You can watch all of our WooCulture live videos on my Facebook page, and they will eventually make it over to YouTube. So watch out for that. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Have a wonderful afternoon.